Yes, people, what's good and welcome back to the channel, guys. So today is just a brief insight into calcium and its role within your aquarium. Now, if you're returning to the channel, guys, welcome back. And if you're new to the channel, make sure you subscribe so when I upload a video, you guys see it fresh. Okay, so enough talking. Let's talk about calcium and my experience with it. So within this reefing hobby, what I've learned is calcium plays a very, very important part in your reef aquarium. Now, if you hold an SPS corals or LPS corals, which is like large polyp, stony corals, or the small acroporan, like the sticks basically. If you have these sorts of corals in your reef aquarium, you need to monitor your calcium levels and keep them at a stable level. Now, it's recommended that calcium is about maybe 400 to 450 was recommended. Certain brands, certain people in this hobby probably run theirs around 380, and I've known people to keep the calcium right 490. So what I would say, same thing like alkalinity. Make sure you keep a range. Make sure you stay within that range as best as possible. Okay, so let me just explain to you the way calcium and alkalinity interact and what you get from it and how it benefits your corals. So last video we spoke about alkalinity, its role, how it stabilizes pH, picking a range, how to ensure that your alkalinity is stable for your reef aquarium. Now, what I understood was alkalinity, well, the alkalinity solution we dose into our aquarium within salt water, all of that's got bicarbonates and carbonates in there. So when the calcium level is optimal and corals start utilizing alkalinity, it will start utilizing calcium as well, and they will form some form of calcium carbonate. And that's what the corals use, especially SPS, like Acropora and Digitata, all these sorts of funky corals. That's what they use to grow the skeleton. Now, I'll always recommend this method. Pick a range. Yeah, you wouldn't hear me say this enough on this channel. Pick a range for your alkalinity, calcium, whatever your dose, whatever parameter you want to keep. Pick a range. So with calcium, it's always recommended 400 to 450. Certain people run their calcium around 380. Yeah, hats off to you. Certain people go closer towards a 500. But for this video, I recommend 400 to 450, and that's about 50 ppm to play with. So if you are dosing and you are testing your water like you should be, and realize that your calcium level is going below that 400, you need to increase the amount of calcium you are dosing. Now, if your calcium is going above the 450, then dial it back. Now, with calcium, guys, what I will always say to people, be aware that calcium and alkalinity have this seesaw relationship. So if you say for example need to do a correction with your calcium level, your alkalinity will be affected when you've dosed that amount into your tank. It may not be a lot, it may be a little bit, but just be aware. And the same as if you dose alkalinity into your tank, the calcium level will be affected, it will dip. Yeah, so that seesaw level is just weird. It's just something that happens. After a while, it does settle out once you continue dosing, but just be aware of it and don't freak out. Yeah, pick your ranges, stay within your ranges, and you'll be fine, guys. So last couple of tips before I go, guys. Number one, ensure that your calcium test kit is in date. It's so important to ensure that your test kit is in date so that you can determine what number your calcium sits at, what range you're at. Number two, ensure that you know how to use those test kits, because a number of times I've picked up a test kit, not read instructions clearly, and there might be a step or two that I've missed and got an incorrect number. And the next thing, which is very, very important, if there's any corrections that you need to make to your calcium levels, for example, if you are lower than the 400 and you need to dose calcium into your system, ensure that the calcium you dose into your system doesn't contain things like trace elements, because you don't want to add those in your system and overdose those. Ensure that if the number or the amount you have to dose is greater than maybe 10 mil or something like that, ensure that you just break up the amount you have to dose over a couple of days. So for example, you're sitting at say 360, you need to be about 400, and it says it tells you dose 60 mil over the course of 3 days, do 20 mil, so it doesn't shock your system and affect your alkalinity and other things, especially your corals within your system. And the last top tip, this is from me to you guys, from my experience. Take about 10 minutes a day just to inspect your reef aquarium. Just have a look, all three sides, all four sides, top, bottom, check your sump. Just inspect your reef to see what's happening with your inhabitants, your livestock. Check on your sand bed, check to see if there are any corals that are stressed out, any STN, all those things that that would affect our corals. Just take 10 minutes, just have a look. And when you start mastering things like alkalinity, calcium, and magnesium levels, and trace elements, all those good and amazing parameters that we always speak about within this hobby, your system will start to thrive, because you will know the cadence and the pattern of life within your aquarium. Right, guys, this is Naran for HT Aquatics Reef. Don't forget to like, share, subscribe, guys. I'll see you next time.